First of all, I would like to thank you for granting this interview to Students Journalist Council. Thank you so much, sir.
Deepak, actually I should thank you because I tell you, normally one doesn't get this opportunity of interacting with the youngsters. I am very, very happy that you have taken the trouble, you have taken the initiative to meet me. I thank you for that.
Okay, sir. Pleasure, sir. My first question to you, sir.
Sir, you completed civil engineering in 1977. Then you went on to pursue industrial engineering from National Productivity Council and completed a degree in 1979. Then you joined Indian Foreign Service in 1980. The first thing which comes to my mind is that what kind of thought process actually goes when you kind of make the shift from a career in engineering to one in Indian Foreign Service?
You know, if you really ask the truth, I would probably say it happened. I mean, like rather than you're very, I mean, like what happens is like we, at least those days, we were not very, you know, like for example, let me put it this way, that as you know that if you are doing well in your studies in college, then there is a lot of pressure in terms of the family that either you know do engineering or medicine, you know, like this is the kind of a thing. Perhaps it continues even today, I think. So, you know, when you're doing well, then you think that engineering is an option. Not that I didn't like engineering or something, as you yourself have said that I had a great experience in GCT and I did civil engineering, I did well also. Then after that I did industrial engineering, but then as it happened that it was a friend of mine who again was an engineer. His name is Murali Krishnan. He now lives in Canada. I think he's become a Canadian citizen now. He told me that he was very interested in applying for, or rather becoming either an Indian Administrative Service Officer or a Foreign Service Officer. So he suggested that why don't we sit together and you know, prepare for the examination and do that. And I think that changed my life in the sense that he did everything, so I did. But you know, having said that, now your career in the civil service gives you a lot of opportunities, like to serve people. Of course, any job is definitely important. I mean, there is nothing like, you can't really compare that, you know, like an engineering job is less or more or whatever. Every job is equally important and all these jobs are required for the society. But then what I am saying is, naturally I know the kind of job or the kind of experience that I have been. So looking back, I would say that I am very happy that I chose this service because, you know, it also gives, there is a certain personal satisfaction also while having a major professional satisfaction, particularly in terms of contribution to India, in terms of, because you are representing India abroad, and then you are also equally importantly, and I would say more importantly, attend to the requirements of a large number of Indians who are abroad. As you know that the total number of Indian origin and the Indian passport holder all over the world is estimated to be about 28 million. So this is another community which requires a certain assistance from us. And of course, as you know, in an embassy, we do a lot of things. I'm sure that in your subsequent questions I can elaborate that.
Okay, sir. Sir, how was your education engineering background helped you as a diplomat later in your career?
You know, every discipline, as you know, that education gives you a kind of a broad base in terms of critical thinking, analysis and logic. You know, like that education gives you. And I would say that engineering is particularly, in my view, gives one additional aspect, which is, I would say, you know, you're trained to be very, very logical in terms of what you do, because you tend to not to see things grey, see as much as possible black or white. You know, like, because you know, like you have a, what I would call a problem solving approach. I'm not saying that the problem solving approach is an exclusive preserve of engineers, but then what happens is, I think in my view, the engineers as a percentage tend to have more of this problem solving approach, so which definitely helps you in whatever profession that you choose, and definitely as a diplomat. And not only that, sometimes there is an occasion where your own background helps you also in that particular job. For instance, that I was in the Department of Atomic Energy for 4 years as Secretary of Atomic Energy Commission and also Director in the department dealing with external relations of the DAE. And you know, like when you work for a technical department like Department of Atomic Energy, which actually consists of a large number of scientists and engineers who work there, it gives you a certain understanding. And also, you know, like for example, if it is U-238, I'm not saying that you should necessarily know what is U-238, but then you know U-238, so like in the sense that lots of things you have already done as part of your engineering, so your understanding and things like that is much better. So another time I should say, it was interesting that I also happened to be for a year in charge of the projects division of the Ministry of External Affairs, which basically engages itself in terms of purchase of properties for Indian missions abroad, like ambassadors' residence and like the office of the embassy and staff quarters and things like that, and also construction. So, which of course, as you know, is if you are a civil engineer, you probably know the processes very well in terms of you do your pre-qualification, then you do your tender process, then you have the project, you have your construction management schedule, you have your PERT and CPM, you ensure in terms of allocation. So I would say that this kind of directly came into as to one would have said it. So it has really helped me a lot, I must say that.
So the youth of today generally prefer a lifestyle where they have a lucrative corporate job over a career in administrative service or foreign service. What is your take on that?
As I said in the beginning, I think every career is important and every career is needed for the society's overall requirements and functioning. So you can't really categorize it that way. But then like naturally every time as a country goes through a certain phase, there are certain things which become more available. As you know that if you see in the late 90s and 2000, IT became a very big option, which actually wasn't that much when I graduated in 1977. It was pretty rare in terms of like people going out in terms of IT and things like that, which of course some of them went for certain other things, not for IT in that sense. So things change, and also naturally like the India of today is much more vigorous and much more dynamic than what happened in 77. But then again, what I'm saying is that it is not that that one chose the foreign service because the other career opportunities were not available. But then given a point where you have so many career options, which I can definitely say one thing, that a career option in the civil services will not be any less than any kind of a corporate job, because it gives you a balanced kind of a life. Meaning what I mean by that is that you get good comfort in terms of like you can educate your children well and you have a decent place to stay, and on top of it the idea of serving the society in terms of being a public servant, which is also equally important.
So you have been a diplomat for a long time now. So you have seen the transformation of India as an economic superhouse from somebody who is seeking investment to somebody who is capable of giving investment. So what is your experience on observing this transformation?
You are very, very right in what you observed, Deepak, just now. The kind of profile and the strength of or the weight of India has changed in international domain in a very positive way in the last say 30 years or so that I have been in the foreign service. And the construct of like our own foreign policy dimension in 77 was definitely 80, I would say, when I joined the foreign service to today. But at the same time, naturally, what we were doing was very, very relevant, very, very important at that point of time. And what we are doing today is naturally keeping up with the times. You see, like as you know, that India has grown economically very strong, and our GDP is very high, and we are one of the top 10 largest economies in the world in terms of the absolute value of GDP is concerned. And we are actually number 3 if you were to convert into power purchase parity. So in terms of the economic strength, we have come a long way, and like if you see the Indian diaspora and the influence that they come to bear in terms of the foreign policy in other countries, this has also become an important dimension. And also third, I would say also is the the way of functioning in the foreign office. Also things have changed a lot in terms of, see, I joined the service when we didn't have what we take it for granted today in terms of the email or the internet or the mobile or whatever. So even the way that information flows globally, things have changed. But then again, coming back to India, India's international profile has changed a lot in a very positive manner, and I would say that with the new government taking over from May 26, as you know, that there is also a very positive feeling about India in terms of all other countries of wanting to be engaged with India and wanting to be doing business with India. And of course, naturally, as part of the government of India, the Foreign Ministry of External Affairs also is implementing policies of the government of India to facilitate this process. So this is definitely, we are in an extremely positive period to be able to contribute to India's international engagement.
Sure.
So many people are ready to give a shot at the administrative service and the foreign service exam, but suddenly they get to realize that they need to spend at least 1 to 2 years just for the preparation part. Now let us assume that if one doesn't crack these exams, so he had spent already 1 to 2 years just for the preparation part, now he need to find a career which is totally different from one of the administrative service. See, now there's a lot of apprehension in people's mindset towards this particular fact. So according to you, what can be done in order to override this aspect of fear or apprehension so that many people take a shot at these exams?
Deepak, actually, one of the things I'm sure all of us know is that you don't need to put all eggs in one basket, or you have to hedge against, things that could be different. So I would say, yes, at the end of the day, when you sit for a competitive examination, it is not only your individual merit, it is a relative merit. I mean, it happens in most places. I mean, it's a relative merit if somebody on that day had done better than you or worse than you, and accordingly either you get it or don't get it. This kind of a thing happens. So what I would say is that it is very important that you shouldn't just do only this, you get what I mean? And I don't think that it is also needed to do that. This is my own feeling, is that you definitely need a good preparation. See, what has again changed for engineers over a period of time is that pre-1980 there was not an engineering subject, because if you remember right, there used to be one subject or not even that, but then subsequent to that we have special engineering subjects which have been introduced into the curricula as an option paper. So there is one paper which you already kind of done for 4 years and your familiarity is of very high order, and then you naturally need to choose another paper. For an engineer, it could be mathematics, it can be physics, it can be chemistry, depending on the kind of interest that you have had. Particularly mathematics, I would say, is because in engineering you do a lot of mathematics, to probably not an MSc mathematics level, but I would say the mathematics that you do is at least BSc plus or first year MSc kind of a thing. So if it's an additional input you can do. In my own case, I took management, and it was not that difficult to understand and do also. So important thing is, I don't think that you should say that okay, only this option I'll do only for this. I think you should spread yourself and keep other options open. It's important.
So these days we see GCTians performing well in diverse platforms, but we show little focus on GCTians performing well in the foreign service or administrative service. You have been a GCTian and you have performed well in the foreign service. So you could probably provide some valuable insight in this particular issue.
I should tell you, yesterday, as you know, that we had this global union of GCT alumni, and I was very happy and indeed grateful that I was invited as a chief guest for that function. And I you probably saw yesterday, that I was able to meet people who graduated from GCT from year 55, 56 till the latest batch kind of a thing. So it was a complete composite mixture. And I met so many people who have done so very well, exceedingly well. In fact, I remember the 85, 89 batch, I think they had contributed together and had opened a separate toilet block for the Vaigai thing. And I'm told that they probably contributed a few lakhs to realize this project. And I know that there is another colleague of mine who actually graduated 2 years before I did, Meghanathan, who contributed a lot in terms of getting this auditorium done. Again, by saying all these things, what I mean is I did meet a section of people who are perhaps not in the IAS or IFS, but then they have done exceedingly well in terms of their chosen profession and have contributed a lot. But having said that, you also have GCTians in the IAS who are doing very well. For example, the Jnanadesikan, who is the Chief Secretary of Tamil Nadu today, is a GCT product. I think he probably graduated 2 or 3 years after I did. So you do have people, but I suppose the career options have become large. So I suppose the important thing is that we should, whatever career that we take, A, you should enjoy it, and B, you should excel at it.
Okay. So you have been a diplomat for a long time now. So what still keeps you driven and excited?
See, one thing also is very interesting in the, of course I mentioned a lot about, the kind of a thing that you do, a public service. I will probably give a few examples of this. Way back in 1981, I did what is called, as part of a training, I was assistant collector for 3 months in Vellore district. So, I had an excellent connector, Narayanan, who became Chief Secretary of Tamil Nadu subsequently. So, he made it sure that we got exposed to all aspects. So, I functioned as a BDO for 1 week in one of the areas in Vellore district. And then I remember that the great satisfaction that I got, because I went for an inspection. There was this boys, some hostel was there, and they didn't have a proper water facilities and things like that. Then because, I don't know, maybe because I said whatever, what had happened was that I visited them on the first day of that working week. Before I left, I was able to give that water supply to them.
Sure.
So, when you go again, this is the kind of the way that people are, telling you thank you for, actually it's the job that you do. Actually, you don't need a thank you for that, but then you have made a difference to someone in doing that. And I would also say, for instance, when I was ambassador in Egypt, we had this evacuation because of the Egyptian revolution. We had about more than 800 Indian tourists who were stranded all over Egypt. They had to be evacuated from there. Subsequently, Libya also in a big way. And naturally, as an embassy, it's your job to do distressed Indians. You need to take care of them. But then, while doing your job, you get so much appreciation, and you know that you have made a difference to somebody's life. Say, for example, at this point of time, I happen to be Special Secretary in charge, among other things, consular passport and visas. So you simplify, you make your passport issuance system more efficient and effective. You make a difference to people's life in a positive way. The people who are going abroad for employment, for various other reasons. So this certainly gives you a lot of satisfaction. For instance, that I am here in Coimbatore. I have just gone to the PSK this morning with the Coimbatore Passport Officer, Mrs. Sashi Kumar. And when I went there, I was very happy to see that this office is performing extremely well. And the appointment, you can get it within a day. And the average time a citizen spends is less than 30 minutes. And I just like to ask, because they didn't know who I was asking some 10 people of different kinds as to how, and all of them said that excellent service. You feel happy that, what you have done is translated into something positive. That naturally keeps you.
Sure, sir. So, Government College of Technology Coimbatore has been an institute of national importance. So, what can GCT Coimbatore do as an institution to use the various opportunities at its disposal so that it can churn out better engineers in the near future?
As I said that I visited GCT after so many years. And yesterday also I went to the auditorium where I think some of the old GCT students who have established various manufacturing units, they had their own display. And in my view, more importantly and more interestingly, you had lots of GCTians final year who have been doing various projects. For instance, I saw a project which is a automatic robo kind of a thing, which is, I believe, is very low cost, which can help in terms of identifying where free parking slot is there. And similarly, I saw lots of innovations in terms of applying the robotic technology, and also there were other equally interesting things. So I think GCT naturally has been contributing in a major way, but then I think the fact that GCT has been there now for the last 70 years, that means we have turned out as GCT a human resource technical pool of, I think on an average, when I did it was about 200 graduates. How many these days per year that it turns?
Something around 1,500.
1,500, okay. So that means that what we are talking about is, we are probably as GCT, we must have produced what, 20,000 or even, more. 1,500, 50,000 will be 1,50,000 in terms of, my math is getting wrong here. See, for example, during my time, it used to be about 200 or so every year. Maybe we did it for about, say 20 years. So that makes it about 4,000. You say that this 1,000 probably for the next, 10,000, probably one can take about 15,000, 16,000. So this pool is available globally. Yesterday, as you know, that we met, even my own batchmates, lots of them are abroad. They are globally, they are available in India. So I suppose one thing is that they can actually, as an alumni, they can mentor people. There must be, in my view, there is a good coordination mechanism, but then it can be even better of, this feedback in terms of the people who have left the college and being able to mentor the people who are there. And also the fact that, what we can do probably contribute even more is that because everybody is in a different kind of position and experience, and then they can tie up with the college to be able to even tell the college, for example, I know that one of my batchmates, he wanted to give commission a R&D project in GCT. So these are all the ways by which we can contribute a lot to the society.
So my final question to you, if given a chance to interact with GCTs, what will you tend to convince them to join the administrative service and the foreign service, and what is your message to GCTs in general?
Okay, as I said, the foreign service and administrative service is a important service for the society, and people who join there can definitely make important contribution. But then having said that, that need not be the only career option. I mean, as I said earlier and elaborated earlier, there are so many career options by which you can contribute to the country's welfare also. I mean, for example, Make in India, which is of course is the thing that we are working on now, which means that India has to become a manufacturing hub. For India to become a manufacturing hub, naturally there should be a lot of engineers input into it. I mean, that's very important. And of course, it is not simply an engineer's input. You also need to have a broader policy framework to enable to do this, where of course people from the Indian Administrative Service and people who can help in terms of getting technology from abroad, foreign investment from abroad can also do an equally important role. But then at the end of the day, in terms of on the Make in India, you need to make India as a manufacturing hub that engineers have a lot to contribute. So what I would probably say, if I suppose fact that one is already 59 years old and been there, so one is in a position to what one may call giving an advice, I would say. So my advice would be is that choose the career where you have a passion, you have an interest, and excel in that. And I'm sure all of us will do, because the kind of students that GCT has been getting over a period of time, I could witness it in the cross section of people that I met yesterday. And if at all, if I can say, you are one better. For example, I don't think that in 1977 when I graduated as a final year student, I ever went or took the initiative to go and interview anybody. You are doing that.
Thank you, sir.
Which means that you people are doing things even more, and that is what it is. Keep it up.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure interacting with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.